Hi everyone, is my voice audible? Hi everyone, is my voice audible? Hi everyone, is my voice audible? Okay, 1 second. Okay, all right. Thanks, Lakshmi. So we'll go ahead. So let me open this. So let's see what we are going to look today. So these are the things that we will be looking today. So a quick recap of what we have discussed in session one, and then different ways of creating the workflows, of which one we have already covered. And then we are going to look into different kinds of events. One such event which is push, which we have already seen. Then we are going to see schedules. So what are schedules? How we can set up these schedules. And then we will see filters. So there are various types of filters, so which we are going to see. And then a couple of miscellaneous topics like GitHub Action Marketplace, where we can go and search for a specific action, and then how we can enable the debug mode so that we can see the debug logs. So yeah, if you have any questions, you can put in the chat. So we'll start with today's session. So so some of the core concepts which we discussed last week, right, in section one. So CI/CD, as everyone knows, it's a continuous integration and continuous development, and there is another CD for continuous deployment. So basically, all these brings the SDLC lifecycle to near automation, right? So once we complete one phase, then we don't have to manually trigger anything. We can create the CI/CD in such a way that everything goes very smooth from the dev environment to production. And then artifacts are nothing but the jars and wars that comes out of the projects, right? When we build, when we package, so those are called as artifacts. So far we have not seen that. We'll be seeing in the coming sessions. And then runners are nothing but, as I mentioned earlier, these are kind of an interface between the YAML file that we are writing and the operating system. So either that can be an operating system provided by the GitHub, or the operating system that is provided by ourselves. So GitHub hosted runners are nothing but the runners that have been provided by GitHub, so which we are currently using. Self-hosted runners are something that the runners that we provide for the GitHub Actions workflows to run. So we'll be seeing this at a later stage in this series of GitHub Actions, where we will be using either an Amazon EC2 instance or a digital cloud droplet, or even maybe a self-hosted, that is the on-prem virtual machine. We'll see that. Then workflow we have gone through. What is a workflow? What is an event? What exactly is a job? A step, right? And then action. So these are all, if you see from workflow to actions, it's kind of a sequence. So workflow is, you can say, a sequence of jobs, and event is nothing but whether it is a push request or pull request, and we are going to see a few other also. And then jobs, we can have multiple jobs. Jobs are nothing but kind of steps, right? So multiple steps constitute a job, and multitude actions constitute a step. In virtual environments, we are going to see what exactly are those in the coming sections. So now let's jump right away into today's agenda. So in the two ways of creating the workflows, the first way of creating the workflow we have already seen. So if I open the Visual Studio Code editor here, so let me close this. So I have moved all the files that we have created, the YAML files, into section 1 because these were running a lot. So the way that we have written here, right, is one way where actually we can create the YAML file right inside our IDE. So I have used Visual Studio Code, but you can write in any editor of your choice. Okay, so this is a little hard way of writing YAML file. There is a much easier way to writing the YAML files. That is the GitHub Actions workflows. So I'm going to show one such way. So for that, I have come to this particular GitHub Actions, and let me go to the repositories. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to pick one sample repository, and in this case, protractor cucumber page object demo. So this is one of the old repositories that I have. Don't worry about this potential risk. We are not going to do anything with that. So let me go to actions. So this is a node based project. So if you see here, GitHub Actions was able to identify that my project is based on Node, and it has provided me with two options. One is to build and test the Node project, and the second is to create a Node module, that is a npm package. We are not worried about creating npm package here. So when you click on set up this workflow, what GitHub Actions will do is that it will give us a template, a ready-made template available for a Node.js project, for a typical Node.js project. So if you see here, GitHub has already is already suggesting that we are going to create a workflow with node.js.yaml, or even we can update this to our exist to any name, and it is creating under .github/workflows folder. If you see, it's creating a template where it is telling a couple of events here, and then it's giving a job with the name build, and it's running on Ubuntu, and has provided some strategy and some steps, right? And if we want to get some ready-made templates, on the right side it's already provided a marketplace, right? So it has provided some five default ones here, but let's say that if you want to search for something, so I'm not sure if there is anything related to Kubernetes. Yeah, so here Kubernetes is available. So if you require Kubernetes, you can work with this. If you want something related to Docker, you can use Docker also. So like this, there are multiple actions, readily available actions that are provided by GitHub Actions. So this is another way, but I would prefer using Visual Studio Code editor. Going forward, we'll be using this. But I just wanted to show that there is another way where actually you can directly edit inside the github.com website itself. Okay. So those are the two ways. Now let's look into the events. So so far we have looked into one event, right? So there is one event, the push event. If you see, all the time we have used just one. This of course is having couple, but we haven't used that. So you can see that we have used push events, only push events. Yeah, there is pull requests, but we haven't seen that, right? So what we are going to see today is an in-depth of different kinds of events and what kind of options that are available with those events. So I'll say events demo. Okay. So if I press on, so now if I press control space, we will see that there are so many options available, right? So many different types of events available. So let's go through quickly a few. Okay, so let's say that, sorry about that. So let's say that if someone is forking your project and you want a certain workflow to be run, so at that time you can use fork. Okay, and let's say that you are maintaining a wiki inside your GitHub project. So whenever there is a change to that wiki, you want to run a certain workflow, and you can use Golem. And similarly, if someone comments on a particular issue, if you want to trigger, let's say you want a bot to be commented saying that thanks for your comment, we'll get back something of that kind, then you can have issue underscore comment as your trigger or event trigger. And the same, if someone raises an issue, you want to have a workflow triggered, you can use issue. And similar to that, there are few more which we have already seen is push, but pull request you can see a few here, right? And the very interesting, one of the interesting is repository underscore dispatch. So if you want to trigger a workflow manually, then you can use repository underscore dispatch. Manually, I don't mean to say, when I say manually, I don't mean to say we go to the github.com and click a certain button, then the workflow trigger. No, I'm not talking about this. When I say manually, let's say that you are using some, let's say you are using a separate, uh, you want to trigger this workflow through a API, REST endpoint. You can do that with the help of repository underscore dispatch, okay, which we will be seeing later. Then you can keep a tap on certain events when it's happening with watch. Okay, so today, now I'm going to show, which we have already seen, is a push event, right? So push event. So push can be either, there are three options that we can have. One is a simple string or an array of strings, and the second is we can give multiple options to push. So let's say that I want this push to be triggered. So we want to do this. One second. We'll just copy this. It's not, for some reason it's not working properly now. So like this, let's say that I want to have a push event, whenever there is a push event, I want this to act only on certain branches, right? Let's say that there is a master branch and I want this to be acted only when there is a certain action, that is a push on the master. Let's say that there are multiple, let's say I also have develop branch also. So now I am saying, if there is any change that is happening on the master and develop branch, only at that time I want this to be triggered. Okay, and the same, uh, way for the pull request also. Pull request is nothing but, let's say you have a couple of branches, master and develop, and you have some new code in the develop branch. You are trying to merge that new code that is there in the develop branch into the master branch. Then we call it as pull request. Okay, so if at all a pull request is raised, and if at all the branch is mastered, then we are saying, okay, trigger this particular event. And apart from branches, there is also types. Okay, types that is available. So different, there are a lot of different types that are available. So which we are going to see now. So if I go to Git, to, let's say GitHub Actions, event types. Okay, and if I search for pull underscore request. Okay, so these are the different types of activities that are available. Okay, so let's say that if at all a pull request is opened, then we are saying, okay, we want a certain workflow event to be triggered, and when someone has edited, we want that to be triggered. So we'll see uh, the push and pull requests, different types today. Okay, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to trigger this on both push and pull request. Okay, so let me open a terminal. So let me copy the path. Okay. All right. So I have this event here. So let me pull from my repository if there is anything. If I say git branch hyphen e, you see that we are currently on the develop branch. So in our master repository, what I did was that I went ahead and created a branch. So if I go to github hyphen action, so this is what we are working with. If you see here, I have already created a develop branch. Okay, so I'm going to, so we are currently in the develop branch. All right, so let me come out of that. So what I'm saying is that this pull request would now be triggered on opened, okay, on edited, and on close. So looks like it's expecting. This one actually valid values is. Yeah, looks like there is some kind of error because actually it accepts list of uh, arrays only, which we have already given the same way. So looks like it's an error in the code editor. So that's fine. So now what we are going to do is that we are going to create and we will say events demo. Okay. And we want to run this on Ubuntu latest. We want to give a name, use events demo, and then inside steps, um, so let's give this event open event. Okay, and then what we are going to do is that we are going to simply run um, open event fun. Okay, The very simple thing, what we did was that we have created a couple of events here. So when there is a push, this will be triggered. When there is a pull request, this will be triggered as well. Okay, so we'll see. Okay, let me comment out this one, so we will be able to see it very clearly. So now what I'm going to say is that I'm going to commit these changes. I'm going to say git push. So if you see here, we are pushing to the develop branch. We are not pushing to the master branch. If we come over here and refresh this, one second, if I go to actions, okay, so there is an event it got triggered. Why did it fail? Invalid types for on. Okay, I think it is type, not types. What's it? It is types in the mistake that I have done is that there is no hyphen. Sorry about that. So it's all right. So now I'm pushing it. So if we come over here, go to actions. Okay, nothing is there. It triggers nothing, right? This was something that got triggered 2 minutes back. Okay, the reason why it is not triggering is because we have this for only pull request, right? So now if I go to pull request, okay, raise a new pull request. I want to compare from develop branch. I want to raise a pull request from develop branch into the master branch. So I'm saying create pull request. So I have created a pull request now. Okay. So now if we go to the actions, okay, this is a develop branch. My bad one. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to merge these changes. Okay. So now let's get into the actions. It's not triggered yet. Oh, sorry, this is wrong. This is pull request I have given here. Should be master branch. Okay. Let me have the changes. and I have triggered the push. Okay, so it has triggered. If I refresh this, of course, not we shouldn't be seeing any changes here. If I go to pull request here, we should be able to raise a new pull request. And I want to raise a pull request from develop to create branch. I want to create this pull request and then merge this pull request. I will confirm. Okay, go to functions. Okay, now we can see that there are a couple of ones. So if we go to this various events demo, we should now see that this event got triggered and we have seen open event. Okay, so this is how we can work with different uh, with events. So we have seen pull request earlier, we have seen push request, right? So similarly there are multiple other event types. So you have check run, so you can see that runs your workflow anytime the check run event occurs. Okay, so similarly there are different events that are available here, we'll be using as we go along in this in these sessions. Okay, but the most important thing here is that you have different different types that you can give here, but for push there are no types. For push you can only give different branches. Okay, for pull request you have more options. So we have seen that we want to run only on these branches, right? So there are, let's say that I do not want to run on a specific branch. I do not want this workflow. So for that, there is an option. Uh, okay, types is something which we have already seen. For some reason it's not looking for it. So let me show it here. So here, if you see here, we have seen these options that we can provide types here. Okay. Um, Also available is yeah, so you can specify the branches that you want to work with. Um, we'll revisit this. Give me a second. Fine. So those are the different things. I also wanted to show you some other options, but for some reason my ID is not giving those options readily available here. So we'll see that options later. So if you do not want to work with a specific branch, that is possible. If you want to work with tags, that is also possible. So let's see, one last try, we'll give it here. Right. So this is giving options. So there looks like that option is not available for pull request. If you say in push request, I do not want to work with develop branch. Okay. So what you can do is that you can select branches hyphen ignore. But branches and branches hyphen ignore, we cannot work at the same time. Okay. So for that, what you can say is that you can give develop and then remove this option. Okay. So now this push request will work on, I mean, whenever there is a push request event, it will work, it will trigger this workflow on all the branches except develop. Okay. But let's say that you do not want to use this. There is another way that you can use branches hyphen ignore without using branches hyphen ignore. So let me show what I mean by that. So let's say that you want to trigger this on master branch, right? but you do not want to trigger this on a develop branch. So what you can simply do is that you can put an exclamatory mark. That's it. It will not trigger. It will not trigger this particular one on the develop branch. But you need to give this in a single quotes, single or double quotes. Okay. So that is about branches in the push request. So you got a couple of more options. One is tags and another is paths. So paths you can specify. Paths is, let's say that you are a front-end developer, okay, and who is only concerned about the JavaScript files and CSS files. You are not concerned about the backend files. Maybe the backend is developed in Java, right? Maybe someone is using Spring Boot or Micronaut or Quarkus or some kind of Java-based framework for developing the backend APIs. So you are not concerned about that. All you are concerned about is only JS files. Okay. So what you can say is that I'm only concerned about asterisk dot.js. So you can say that I'm only concerned about this. Rest I'm not at all concerned. Okay. So you can give like this. And also let's say that you are not concerned about any changes. You do not want this to be triggered when there is um, so when there is a change in the document, that is markdown files. Okay, you do not want to trigger this workflow. So what you can do is that again you can put an asterisk against this. So this will not trigger whenever there is a change in the .md files. It will only trigger this workflow when there is changes in JS files. Okay, and also you can say only when there is change in CSS files. Okay, so like that you can use paths. And another option is you have tags. So let's say that your team is working on two different releases parallelly. So let's say there is a major release that is coming. Like let's say you are going to trigger a major release called as V2. Okay, so you want this to be triggered only when there is V2, and you do not want this to be triggered if it is anything less than V2. Okay, that is if there is any changes on v1.x, you do not want this workflow to be triggered. You want to trigger this workflow only when there is change in version v2. Okay, so that is how we typically use these different kinds of events. So earlier we were having just a simple push request. We didn't give any attributes to that, and later we have said that you can have different events like this. You can have push like this, then you can have pull request, right? So you can have an array of a list or array, and after that we are now seeing different options for each event types. Okay, so this is how it is. Different events. I think we have completed this part. Okay, so we have seen single events, list of events, multiple events with action types, right? So let me comment this out because I do not want this to be triggered anymore. Now the next thing is schedules. So for schedules, if we go and search for cron tab, there is a site called as cron tab guru, so which will help us to identify at what time that we want to run. So I'll just take a 5 minutes on this and then we will move ahead. So if I put everything, there are 5 asterisks. Okay, so the first one is related to minutes, at what minute we want to work with. The second one is related to hour, which hour of the day. Okay, and then the day, which day of the month, and then the month, and then which day of the week. So we need to be very clear, these are two different days. One is day of the month and another is day of the week. So this is a typical cron style, right? So let's say that I want to trigger this every 5 minutes. So I can say it's not triggering every 5 minutes, it will trigger at minute 5. Okay, at minute 5, uh, if you can see here, let's okay, now we should be able to see. Let's say let's put asterisk here. So we want to trigger at 5 minutes. Okay, so you can see it triggers at minute 5, right? So it's not every 5 minutes, but every 5 minutes of every hour. Okay, so let's say that if I put it 2 here, so in hour 2 of every day of every month of every week, it will trigger uh, 5 for 5 minutes. You can see that it triggers the first time, it triggers on 27 because today is 26, so it is triggering tomorrow. Okay, if I say 1 at 1 o'clock of every day, okay, exactly at 1:05 it triggers. Okay, like that. Let's say that I want to trigger this on a specific month. So let's say this is month April, and if I want to trigger this on May, you can see that in the month of May it triggers, and I also want to trigger this on June. Okay, 1 second. I think may not work with every phone. So for this, they looks like they do not have it. Okay, so like this, you can specify like at what time that you want to trigger. So here you can see at 1:05 in May on every day. Okay, if you put asterisk, then it will be continuously on every day of every month of every week. Okay, at 1 o'clock it will trigger. So what we are going to do now is that if I put asterisk here, so it will trigger for every hour of every for every hour, exactly past 5 minutes, this will trigger this event. If I do not want to trigger this like that, if I want to just trigger every hour, then we can like every minute, sorry, every minute, then we can do like this. So there are options. So if you hover here, you hover on each option here, you can see whatever the options that you can give. So for the first one, the allowed value is these values, sorry, the ones that you are seeing at the bottom. So if asterisk, we are saying any value. Let's say that I want to trigger on 1 and 2. Okay, at minute 1 and minute 2 it will trigger. Okay, if you, but let's say that I want to trigger on 1, 2, 3, so it will trigger like this. The better option would be to just give a hyphen, so which is that nothing but you are giving a range. Okay, now let's say that I want to trigger this on every 15 minutes, every 15th minute from 0 through 59. So it triggers at 11:15 because right now the time is 11:10. The next nearest 15th minute is 11:15. So it triggers at 11:15, it triggers at 11:30, 11:45, and 12. Okay, so like that we can give an option. Let's say that I want a specific hour. I think it's yeah, you need to avoid these kinds, but again it works. Okay, so for now what we are going to do is that we want to trigger this every 5 minutes. So if you go over here, I'll just uncomment this, and I'll also uncomment this. If you go over here, there is an option for schedule. Okay, so schedule, you can give this option like this. So what will happen is that now if you push any changes, this will be kind of a cron job, right? Similar to how we have in Jenkins, this will keep triggering every 5 minutes. You don't have to go and manually trigger any changes. Okay, so there we go. So that's all I wanted to cover as part of schedule event as well. And then the next one is filters. Filters, by the way, I think we have already covered as part of the events when we were going through events. I've shown you there are tags, branches, and path for the push, so which we have already covered. So let's now go to the marketplace. Okay, so if we go to GitHub and search for GitHub Actions Marketplace. So this is here you will find some thousands of GitHub actions readily available. You can see about 3,350 actions are available. So earlier we were searching for Docker and all, right? Let's say I want to create some Ruby project and I want to see if there is any readily available gem, right? That we want to use with our Ruby project. So you can search for this. So there is Pronto Ruby, publish to Ruby gems. If you want to publish something, build and publish, and then set up Ruby packages, right? So there are multiple such actions. Let's say that I want to see if there is um, any modules of Python that are available. So I can search for Python. So Python lint is available. If you want to set up Python, of course, by default, the GitHub hosted actions. So sorry, GitHub hosted runners comes with the Python with pip installed, right? But if you want to customize this to your requirements, you can do that. Okay, so like this, and let's say if there is any node modules that are available, you can search for node, and you can see that there are some options, send email action through node, and then node.js action template. So like this, there are different options that are available. Let's see if there is anything related to Java. So you see set up Java, but also whenever you see a tick mark, right? So and you see by actions, this is something that GitHub has created. Okay, GitHub Actions team has created for us to use it. Okay, there is Maven release someone has created. So you can check like this. You can see that there are tons of these readily available actions. So one of the actions that we have used already in the first section is checkout. If you look for checkout, so this is the action that is been provided by GitHub. So if you click on checkout, you will be able to see how you can use it. So currently it is version 1. So what's new they have given and how we can use it. It's very simple. You just copy these 3 lines of code and then in your job steps you paste it and then you can start using it. Okay. So that's as simple as this. Yeah, there is another way if you want to use head. So there are examples also that have been given. Okay, so like that you can use GitHub Actions very easily, right? So now let's look at the enable git debug options. So far if we go to our GitHub projects, okay, let's go here, go to the GitHub Actions. If I go to Actions and Events Demo, let's look at one of such events and click on various events demo. So if you see here, there is not a lot of information other than what we have given, right? But if we want to see what exactly GitHub Actions is doing behind the scenes, then we can enable the debug option. Okay, so for that there is a keyword. So let's search for that keyword. Enable debug. Yeah, so this option we need to enable this. We need to input this in our repository. So what we are going to do here is that we're going to go to settings and actions. One second. It is when it's inside the settings. Security. One second. I think I have messed up where exactly is that needs to be changed. If we go to secrets here, we should be able to add a new secret. We give this value and we just say true and add this one. Okay, so now when you come back, let's say that I want to so let's say that I have saved this. Okay, you want this to be triggered. I'm just triggering a push. So this will run on every 5 minutes. This will run on push. This will run on pull request, everything. So a lot of things will happen, but we will only see one of the actions. Okay. So if we go to actions here, if for some reason XYZ fail, okay, I think we have messed up again with the types. No, types is correct. So we can do anything from now. Okay, so oh, okay, this is on push, it is failing. Okay, so we will, for now, what we will do is that we will raise a pull request so that this will be triggered. We want to do it from develop to master branch. So I raise a create a pull request. Okay, and then merge these changes. I will confirm these changes. Then if I come over to actions, okay, merge request will also fail. And then type on. I don't think you can have both at the same time. Okay, I just wanted to show some debug option that is available. That's it for this demo. I just wanted to show that. So we will select the develop branch into the master branch, and these changes. We'll raise a create pull request, and then we will manage the request. Hopefully this time it should go through. Okay. So now we can see that this XYZ is queued and it is running. So if I, yeah, it has ran successfully. If I enable this, okay, for some reason this is not looking to it. Okay, the debug is not, debug option isn't showing up here. It's not showing a lot. Um, I'll check that and I'll get back in the next section. Okay, so in this section, again, quick wrap up. We have gone through what we have covered in the last section, and then we have seen different ways of creating workflows, different events that we can create, different types of events that we can create, how we can schedule events, and then how we can filter and where actions are available, that we call it as actions marketplace. And regarding this enable debug logging, I'll get back to you in the next section. So that's it for this section, this session. Any questions? Okay. All right. So we are wrapping up this session. So we'll be meeting next week. Okay. Thanks. Thanks everyone for joining.